Sound Speeds, and welcome back to the Sound Speeds podcast, a member of the Geeks Rising Podcast Network, the only video podcast on the network as of right now. Only video, no audio. So without further delay, let's get right into it. I did a video recently on recording dialogue inside of a car that is being rained on, and in the comments, and I received a few messages about this also, people have pointed out that hog's hair is what you would normally want to use on a set, and that's 100% correct. I did use hog's hair in that video and talk about its properties on silencing rain. Now, the reason I didn't cover it in that particular video wasn't because I forgot. You would normally say, well, Alan, don't you want to be thorough? Yes, I do. But here's one of the things I'm going to point out. Hog's hair is usually absolutely what you would want to use. But inside of a car that is being rained on, I said, make sure that there's a few layers of it. If you put down a ferny pad, a furniture moving blanket, whatever you want to call it, on top of a vehicle like that, it is going to actually stop the rain from hitting it. Hog's hair, to my experience, and it may be that recording with only 2 inches or so like that of hog's hair on top of it wasn't necessarily enough, but usually hog's hair still goes through and it will still make that audible on the inside of a vehicle. Not always if you use enough of it, but most of the time, I've only been on probably 2 sound teams that have actually had enough hog's hair to actually quiet it more so than using furniture moving blankets and a few layers of it. And this is straight up because of the property of sound being dampened going through hog's hair versus going through and hitting, going through a furniture moving blanket on top of a metal surface. If you're inside of that vehicle and you have hog's hair being hit on top, what will sometimes happen is it will make it down through there and you will still hear the rain getting all the way through it. But if you have it on top of a furniture moving blanket and about 2 inches of it, which is what I said in the video, then it's going to absorb and it's going to take out a lot of that sound too. Now you may say it's going to be heavy. It's going to get waterlogged. It's going to then start making noise again. Well, guess what? For furnace filters, hog's hair is going to do the same exact thing unless there's a path to vent out. And so that way it's not going to just pull up underneath it. But yes, absolutely use hog's hair if you can. But a lot of people do not think about hog's hair until you need it. If you carry some rolls on it, absolutely do that. There's only been about 2 sound teams I've ever been a part of that have actually had enough hog's hair to do something more than treat like a downspout or something like that, unless we have specifically bought it for a particular scene in advance. Most of the time, though, they just throw it at you and say, oh, we're going to go ahead and record this scene now. Oh, it's being rained on. What can you do? So in a pinch, if you don't have hog's hair on a pro set, absolutely use the furniture movable blankets. If you do have hog's hair, absolutely use that as well. Most of the people that watch this channel do not do the bigger shows where you would think about using hog's hair. So for my purposes in that particular video, I talked about a blanket solution, no pun intended, that will work for everybody in that situation that they happen to find themselves in. It will be something that they do want to be aware of hog's hair because it is absolutely a wonderful solution and the ideal solution, especially if you use enough thickness of it, but it is not always available to everybody unless they buy it in advance and happen to stock it up. This is one of those things where if you happen to get on a movie and you do location scouting and you hear about any sequence that's going to be done in the rain, that's when you want to ask about hog's hair. But many times I've been on TV shows where they say, oh yeah, we're just going to roll on this and it's going to be raining. Sorry, sound, you're going to get what you get. And that's when I'll try to put up something over top to prevent rain from hitting the vehicle. And if that's not an option, I'll start blanketing it up or something like that. Because again, I will usually find that does a swell job, just to use an old school phrase. It will do a swell job in dampening the raindrops from hitting the roof. But you got to keep in mind, when you're recording with microphones on the inside of the vehicle, any sound that hits that top will be magnified on the inside. So if you got to build up some thickness. Doesn't matter if it's hog's hair or if it's blankets, whatever. Build up some thickness on top to dampen that sound because it's going to be kind of a soundproofing effect, not a sound absorbing. You don't care about that as much as using, moving blankets or something on the wall to take out some of the reverb inside of a room. No, what we're talking about here is specifically the sound that is transmitted through, or sound transmission class, STC. Check out that video right there if you want to know a little bit more about that. But that is the reason why I only covered moving blankets and not necessarily hog hair in that previous video. If you're a content creator or a professional sound mixer, then one of the things that you might be a little bit concerned about is the investment in all of your gear. And if you are wondering about what you do to ensure it and you're in the world of production sound, it's very simple. get on the certificate of insurance on the show that you're working on. Production sound mixers can do this. Boom operators and sound utilities can't usually because we are getting kits which are not insured, which is really, really bad. I hate that. I usually fight for at least getting coverage to a certain degree. Like if something gets damaged, I'll get production to at least cover that if they don't want to cover the entire loss. But like, for example, kits are technically, you lose it, you break it, something like that, it's on you. But the sound mixers gear that they have through their LLC or S Corp, C Corp, incorporation, whatever, that is actually the company that's providing the gear to the show, and the sound mixer that's operating it is the person that is allowed to use it on behalf of that company. So the production sound mixer owns a company that supplies gear to the show, and the company and the show is basically renting gear from that production company. That's the workaround. That's why it's on the certificate of insurance. Boom operators and sound utilities, we have a kit, but I'm going to mention one thing real quick here. I've mentioned this in the past. I'm going to mention it again. If you are on a show, you want to make sure that you are covered in case something is stolen. If you break something, then you can maybe say, okay, I agree that if I break my own thing, I'll cover it. That's fine. But if I'm on set and someone else breaks something, or I'm booming and then someone shoves the end of the microphone up and it breaks or something like that, or pushes it out of the way, that's going to be on the show. And if the production sound mixer's trailer is stolen, if the sound trailer is stolen, all of my gear, my entire kit, like, am I supposed to lose $15,000 worth of gear? And you basically say, well, sorry, sound guy, you're just going to be out. No. If they're going to be able to put that on their insurance, which they require an inventory list of all the gear that I have on rental for the show, if they're going to be putting that through insurance and recovering and replacing that, I should get paid for that. So I make sure that in any case like that, I would get covered. But that's not where I'm going with this video. If you happen to have any amount of gear, it doesn't matter if you're a production sound mixer, if you have thousands of dollars of microphones, if you have a home studio and you have a bunch of cameras, what you need to do is get insurance, and not all insurance is the same. What you would want to do is get some sort of insurance that you don't have to, I just got through getting a new Neumann microphone. I have to send this in to get it evaluated and priced and have them say, okay, well, here's the serial numbers and this is the condition it's in and we will replace it for this much. You don't want to have to do that. What you want is a company that you can basically send your inventory list and they say, okay, you're covered now. Who can do that? Trew Shield. This is the reason why I wanted to cover it. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. I've been wanting to actually do a video about Trew Shield for quite a while. Trew Shield is actually formed by Glenn Trew, who is a production sound mixer of over 40 years. He's also been on the Epic live stream. He's been on this channel before, talking about Mina. He's actually a very, very well-known production sound mixer. He also owns Trew Audio. But Trew Shield is a product where him, basically as a production sound mixer, what would he want as a product that would cover him when he's not on the certificate of insurance on a show? You want to have insurance and you want to make sure that your gear is covered where you don't have a big hassle if something comes up and you need to have your gear covered. This is why you need to go with Trew Shield. It was made by someone that has thousands and thousands and $10,000 to $1,000 worth of gear that wants to make sure it's covered. And it's not covered by like some little podunk, community bank that if you end up, saying I have $100,000 worth of gear and it just, we're not going to be able to cover that. No, this is covered by big banks that actually do have the ability to replace your gear if something happens to it. If you do end up having some sort of a loss, Trew Shield has your back, and the prices are extremely reasonable. And I will put down in the description down below a link to Trew Shield if you would like to check them out. But if you have any amount of gear and you do not have any kind of insurance on there, what happens if you get that gear stolen? If you put stuff in an audio trailer, a sound trailer, and you put it out at, let's just say this happened to a friend of mine recently. He had his production sound trailer inside of a secured lot, inside of a secured storage lot. But what someone did is they staked it out. They came out there. They assumed that it would have some sort of a protection on it, and they went straight in there. They cut the wires on there. And then they hooked up to the trailer. Even though it had a trailer hitch lock on there, they had like a universal or something like that. They connected it up there, connected up to their vehicle. They pulled away with it after disabling the ability of the GPS to track it. And they got over $100,000 worth of gear. oh man, I'm sure he wishes that he was a member of Trew Shield if he wasn't. I don't know if he was or not, but I would like to think that he is now. And anybody who has lost a lot of gear and had to replace it would have wanted to have Trew Shield, because Trew Shield is very, very reasonably priced, and they cover you without a lot of hassle, because they would want to offer you the kind of insurance and coverage that you require that someone that has a lot of gear would. And again, this is made by someone that has a lot of gear and would want it covered a certain way. So he shopped for years to make sure that he could cover things the way he would want it to be covered, and he brought this product to you. So check out Trew Shield if you have any interest in covering a lot of gear that you have. Doesn't matter if it's camera or if it's sound or what have you. If you have any kind of a gear that you want covered on insurance just in case, there you go. So there you have it, another episode of the Sound Speeds podcast in the can. Thank you very much for watching, and I think we're, on episode 25 or something like that? We have already done 25 episodes of this. And in the past 25 episodes, we have gone from doing podcasts inside of driving cars down the street to, what have we done? Oh, we joined the Geeks Rising Podcast Network, which is awesome. And so that is the, if you're not familiar with that, that's geeksrising.com. And there's all kinds of different podcasts on there that you can check out. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sound Speeds Podcast, and I will see you in 2 weeks with yet another episode. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.